I'm closing in on about 250 drafts at this point, and these are the running backs that I can't stop taking. First guy, he's actually expensive. Now, I still think he is a pretty big discount in comparison to where his true ceiling is, but Saquon Barkley is going, in my mind, about a round too late. If you're looking at underdog drafts in particular, Saquon Barkley is the running back 6. He's going behind Nick Chubb. Saquon Barkley is also going behind Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, and he has to be a round 1 selection in my mind. Because if we go through and look at his usage from this past year, Saquon Barkley demonstrates every aspect of a future league-winning running back that we look for. If you look at his market share number, he commanded 60% of this New York Giants rushing offense on a per-game basis, and that's including the Daniel Jones carries. If you're looking at the target share, this is the number one thing that we want to be identifying if you're playing in anything but a non-PPR format. You are seeing a 15% team target share on a per game basis for Saquon Barkley as a New York Giant. I don't expect this number to go down anytime soon because this is what we've historically seen from Saquon Barkley. We know Barkley is one of the best receiving down backs in the NFL, and instead of going out there and completely overhauling their wide receiver room this offseason, they took Jalen Hyatt in round 3. They signed Paris Campbell and traded a day 3 pick for Darren Waller. Like, Saquon Barkley is possibly the number 1 receiving option for Daniel Jones here in this offense. He was the running back 5 from a points per game perspective this past year. He averaged over 100 total yards per game. So if you're looking at these boxes that we want to check, he has the market share numbers as a rusher that we look for. He has the market share numbers as a receiver that we look for. And he is not like Austin Eckler. He's not like Christian McCaffrey. He's not going into his age 27, 28 season. No, Barkley is still in that prime range that we are looking for between 21 to 26 years old. The only red flag you could possibly point to if you were looking at Saquon Barkley will be what you have in terms of the contract situation. Now, I understand maybe there's a little bit of a concern when it comes to, okay, is he actually playing this next year? And I kind of understand that concern, right? I mean, we've seen these contract holdouts get ugly and last until the very beginning of the season. And in some instances, maybe it's a valid concern, right? Like if you're looking at Josh Jacobs, the Raiders may very well say, you know what, man, come on. I mean, we are not contending this next year. We're going to lose regardless. If you don't want to play under the franchise tag, you don't need to play. We're not paying you all the money in the world. But the New York Giants aren't in that boat. The New York Giants are trying to win this year, indicated by the contract they decided to give Daniel Jones. So in my mind, this contract situation is going to be resolved with the New York Giants and Saquon Barkley by the start of the season. Saquon Barkley checks every box that you're looking for. Now, in casual ESPN drafts, to be honest with you, I think Saquon Barkley is going in a fair range. Saquon Barkley there is the 9th player off the board. Saquon Barkley is, I like, the 4th running back, only behind Eckler, CMC, Bijan Robinson. And I think that's a very fair price point. This is more so for those underdog best ball drafts where you're literally getting him in the middle second to end of second round where I can't stop taking him. I mean, hell, even if you look at the projections for Saquon Barkley this next season, they look great because I want to remind y'all, you can't really compare his rushing yards mark to someone like Nick Chubb because historically speaking, Nick Chubb hasn't really been used on third down. So what we need to do with Saquon Barkley is compare him to the other elite receiving down backs that are closing in on a 15% team target share. And if you're looking at Christian McCaffrey, they have CMC at 865 rushing yards. They have Austin Eckler at 775 rushing yards for their player props. And the player prop with rushing yards with Saquon Barkley is at 975. Even if you think that those first 2 backs are going to be a little bit better in the receiving game, Barkley's still elite in that area. If we look at what we had from Saquon Barkley at his age this past season and go to the road of his screener and look at all running backs that were comparable since the year 2000, DeMarco Murray put up a similar season at a similar age. The following year, he averaged 115 rushing yards per game. Adrian Peterson put up a similar season at a similar age, and the next year he averaged 80 rushing yards per game. Joe Mixon did the same thing in 2021, and the following season in 2022, Joe Mixon was a top 10 running back in fantasy. Really the only guy that you saw that fall off from at this age, and he didn't even fall off immediately, was Chris Carson. But I would say Carson, with no pedigree whatsoever, isn't a good comp for Saquon Barkley, who is arguably the best running back prospect of all time. You really want to be comparing him to those other guys like Adrian Peterson in my mind. But yeah, that's why I just can't stop drafting Saquon Barkley in the second round. I know it sounds crazy that, a second round running back is our most drafted RB at this point, but I'm not taking Olave over him. I'm sorry. Now, going over to our next guy, the only other guy I'm pretty much taking the second round at this point is Jonathan Taylor. And with JT, I understand the concerns. This is a running back that dealt with an injury this past season. You saw the massive drop-off. He went from being the running back 2 from a points per game perspective his second year down to the running back 18 in year 3. Hell, he goes from about 19.5 carries per game down to about 17.5. What is most concerning is the Indianapolis Colts offense just falls off a cliff. The Colts were horrendous, and this led Jonathan Taylor from going from about 130 total yards per game down to 91, going from about 1.2 touchdowns per game down to 0.3. But the underlying numbers from a market share perspective for Jonathan Taylor improved. They got better. If you're looking at his rushing mark, he averaged 67% of the Indianapolis Colts carries on a per game basis in comparison to his league winning season in 2021, where he was at 66%. So he got slightly better, pretty much stayed the same. But what also got slightly better / stayed the same was his target share number. He went from about 9.5% of his team's targets on a per game basis in 2021 when he won fantasy football leagues to about 10.2% this past season. So the underlying numbers with the workload for JT actually improved. It was just the overall offense got way worse. Now, this next season, I think Anthony Richardson will be a little bit better. I expect the receiving down usage to go down for Taylor just a bit because Anthony Richardson won't have nearly as high as a check down rate of what we've seen with quarterbacks in Indianapolis over the past few seasons, but very similar to what we've seen with running backs that play alongside Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, those other elite level rushers. You can expect the rushing efficiency of Jonathan Taylor to actually go up, given the fact that when Anthony Richardson goes to hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, it's not like the linebackers can crash down with only it being really two options. If Matt Ryan is your quarterback in either a play action or Jonathan Taylor running the ball, when Anthony Richardson goes to hand the ball off, the linebackers are actually going to have to freeze and be worried about Anthony Richardson taking it off the edge with that zone read. So it's a little bit different here where while the receiving upside may be capped, the rushing efficiency may go up and that may outweigh the loss of receiving. So if you're looking at his price point right now in ESPN, like casual redraft leagues, he's going at pick 10. And honestly, I'm fine with that price. This is more so just like it's crazy to see where he's going into underdog drafts. And y'all know that's where I've drafted like 250 teams so far this year. There he is, pick 18, right next to Saquon Barkley. Just like Saquon Barkley, he's going behind Jalen Waddle. He's going behind Nick Chubb. He's going behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson. And I just think that's crazy. And of course, real quick, if you want to check out any of those player props on this video, or if you want to get into an underdog draft with us this season, you know we're drafting literally every single day on the live stream. Last year, we drafted over 700 teams and won $150,000. It's best ball, so there's no time commitment at all during the season. And if you go to the link in the description or in the comment section and sign up for Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Plus, you're going to get our 2023 fantasy football rankings, a free trial to flockfantasy.com, available in damn near every state, and you can hop into a draft with us literally every single day on the live stream. But now going over to our next guy, finally, we are going to be getting to cheaper options here. Damien Pierce is a running back that I whiffed on massively last season. Like Damien Pierce was going in round 4, round 5, and my overall statement with this was, okay, why the hell am I taking a day 3 unproven rookie who is running alongside Davis Mills in the 4th round? Okay, can this guy not prove himself first? Can we not see that this is actually something real and not just, some random training camp buzz? But yeah, no, Damien Pierce went out there and he proved himself this past season. He averaged 17 carries per game. This was good for a market share number of about 72% of his team's carries on a per game basis. He averaged 3 targets per game. That was close to 9% of his team's target share. And yeah, that's great. That's the exact kind of workload that you're looking for. So yeah, Damien Pierce proved himself to me, and I'd be willing to draft him depending on price, right? So you'd assume CJ Stroud comes into this offense. He was a 4th, 5th round pick last year. What is Damien Pierce now going in round 3, right? No, Damien Pierce is cheaper. After proving himself, after getting a quarterback upgrade from Davis Mills to CJ Stroud, after the Houston Texans showing that they believe and stand by Davis Mills by only bringing in Devin Singletary as the mix-in back, the backup running back, whatever the hell you want to call him, Damien Pierce is now cheaper. If I go over to Underdog Drafts right now, I mean, I'm sure y'all have seen on the live stream as of late, Damien Pierce falling to round 7. He has an ADP at pick 70 going behind Mike Evans, Treylon Burks, Cam Akers, Michael Pittman, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba. So I thought that maybe I'd be a little bit lower on Damien Pierce than most people, but it's just wild to see the change that they had. Now, what's kind of funny is if you go over and look at his ADP in ESPN drafts, there he's not pick 70. If you're going to be drafting like a casual redraft league, he's actually at pick 42, and he's going directly ahead of Kenneth Walker. So almost similar to these other top running backs that we were talking about previously. Maybe it's not the best spot to take him in your casual redraft league at cost, but this is maybe more so a pick for one of those underdog best ball teams if you're able to get him in round 7. I mean, right now, his player prop line has him for 900 rushing yards and 5.5 rushing touchdowns. But now going over to our next guy, Javonte Williams is a running back that I've been taking quite a bit. Okay, now keep in mind, I've been drafting in a lot of those underdog tournaments where it's like a $25 buy-in, $3 million for first place in Best Ball Mania, right? Or like the Poodle draft they have going right now, it's like a $7 buy-in, $60,000 for first place Best Ball tournament. So when I'm in those massive tournaments, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to maximize the ceiling for weeks 15, 16, 17. And right now in those contests, you get an extremely cheap price on Javonte Williams. I mean, Javonte Williams is going as the running back 29. He has an ADP of 91. He's going behind Bateman, Zay Flowers, going right next to Michael Thomas, Cortland Sutton. And that is a price point that I'm willing to risk it with, because even if Javonte Williams were to miss a month, even if Javonte Williams were to miss 6 weeks, it's not really going to matter for me at the end of the day if he is the starting running back for the Denver Broncos going into this next season. And in weeks 15, 16, 17, he can give me the upside that we're looking for, because similar to Damien Pierce, it's interesting to see the Denver Broncos standing by Javonte Williams this offseason, where they could have gone through and they could have added in some running back help in the draft. They could have gone and signed a big free agent. They just brought in Samaje Perine, a career backup at the running back position, to give them a little bit of depth there. And now we are getting reports coming out saying Javonte Williams may be cleared by training camp. Now, I don't want to go crazy and say, oh yeah, Javonte Williams is all good. He tells us he's good. He's feeling great. This means he's going to be a top 12. No, I'm not going to say that. I still think that there's a real good shot Javonte Williams is missing the beginning of the season. But nonetheless, it's all about that cost. And if you're taking him next to Thomas, if you're taking him next to Cortland Sutton in a draft tournament where we are trying to have the highest ceiling possible in the fantasy football playoffs, to turn $25 into $3 million, to turn $7 into $60,000, that's where I want to be taking Javonte Williams. Now, if we go over and look at where he's going in casual redraft leagues, Javonte Williams is sadly not going next to Michael Thomas. He's not going next to Cortland Sutton, but he's still pretty damn cheap. Javonte Williams there is going next to Jacoby Myers, Treylon Burks, AJ Dillon, Jamal Williams. And I think you can actually take Jamal in your casual redraft league with the big asterisks on this. You can take Jamal Williams if, and it's a big if, you can put him on the IR if he goes on the PUP. If you have to waste a bench spot with Javonte Williams waiting for him to come back, then in reality, you're probably better off avoiding him in your draft. But if you can slide him to the IR if he goes on the PUP, he's worth a shot in your casual redraft league as well. But now going over to our last running back we're going to be looking at here, we have Khalil Herbert. With Herbert, I thought I would not draft him at all this next season. I was expecting a lot of people to run out and tell us, oh my gosh, Mason, you're way too low on Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert's the starting running back for the Chicago Bears. He's going to crush. And I was going to have to be the wet blanket on the situation going, well, we don't really know if he's the starting running back. It may be Roschon. It may be D'Onta Foreman. I think it's kind of up in the air. Even if Khalil Herbert is the favorite, by no means is it a guarantee. What's surprising to me is that it looks like everybody says the same thing. It looks like everybody realizes by no means is Khalil Herbert the guaranteed starting running back for the Chicago Bears. And for this reason, Khalil Herbert is being drafted as the running back 40 on Underdog at pick 120. He's going directly behind Romeo Doubs, right before Zay Jones. And even if you're going over to his casual redraft ADP in ESPN drafts, he's going directly behind DJ Chark, and he's going behind freaking kickers. There are kickers with an ADP as high as Khalil Herbert. This is a possible starting running back. This is a running back that last year, with David Montgomery as the starter for the Chicago Bears, was the running back 42, was hyper efficient. If I had to break down the probability of who the starting running back was for the Chicago Bears this next season, I'm probably giving Khalil Herbert like a 50% shot. Roschon Johnson maybe like a 30% shot. Then D'Onta Foreman maybe like a 20% shot, but I do think Khalil Herbert's the favorite. If you're going to go over and look at the pick'em lines that they have on Underdog, they have Khalil Herbert sitting at 600 rushing yards in comparison to D'Onta Foreman at 460. I don't know. I just really like the price point with Herbert here. But I think that's all we have for this video. Again, thank you so much for checking it out. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you want to check out any of those pick'em lines, if you want to get into a draft with us on the live stream, we are drafting those best ball tournaments every single day on Underdog Fantasy. Not going to miss a day on the live stream until 2024. And if you sign up to Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Plus, you'll get our 2023 fantasy football rankings, a free trial to flockfantasy.com. It's best ball, so there's no time commitment at all during the year. But I think that's all we have. Thank you again. Really do appreciate you. And I really hope I get to get in a draft with you later today on the live stream.